we have. Michael.
Thanks, Ange. Hi, Ange. Sorry. I usually start with team news, but obviously specifically a really bad injury to Ivan Perisic this week.
Yeah, disappointing. Firstly for Ivan more than anything else. It's just one of those innocuous things that happen sometimes. He obviously got a pretty significant injury from training, and as I said, disappointed for him because I've only worked with him for a little while, but you can see why. He's played at some of the biggest clubs in the world, and why he's maintained such a level of performance for so many years. He's the ultimate pro in the way he trains, the way he presents himself, and it's disappointing for us as well because he's been a real important part of sort of what we've done so far. We don't have a great experience in the group, and he's one that does have that level head, and has been pretty significant in all our games so far in big moments. So I said first disappointed for him, disappointed for us in terms of what we're trying to build. But he's, as I said at the start, he's very strong-willed, and I've got no doubt he'll come back and for club and country and get back to the levels he showed before getting injured.
Huge game Sunday, and you've been involved in so many derby matches in your time, most recently Celtic and Rangers. Over the last few months, obviously locally, Cockfosters, Hadley Wood, you've bumped into Spurs fans and maybe even Arsenal fans have told you just how big a game this is for both sets of fans.
Yeah, no, it's fair to say. People have sort of given me an indication of how they feel about this game, and that's great. I mean, it's as you said, I've been involved in derbies, and one very significant one, and you understand what it means to supporters for both clubs, and kind of the significance in terms of the general mood around the place. So all these kind of things, add significance to the fixture, and also the fact that they're a very, very good football side. They had an outstanding season last year. I think they've strengthened this year. They're a group that's for the most part has grown together, and you can see that there's a real belief within them. So playing them at their place is going to be a hell of a challenge for us.
There was a lovely moment at the fans forum at the very end when there's a young lad got his question answered. Got a lot of attention on social media, and rightly so. You're even getting Arsenal fans saying on social media, "I hate Spurs, but I really like Ange." It's been a great few months. I know this is just one game, but I just want to get your view on how I'm assessing how you've been in the first few months in England and how much you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, look, I've enjoyed it because I enjoy what I do, and it's just I'm just trying to be who I have been my whole life, and with the forum, it was just a young man who was dying to ask a question, mate. That's what we were there, and I didn't think one extra question was going to be anything too significant to anyone else but to that young man. So felt right to do it, and did it, and that's fine. I mean, I don't think there's a famous college coach who once said, never be proud about doing the right thing, just do it. So it's there's always life lessons for all of us, no matter how old you are, about the way we conduct ourselves. But I've enjoyed so far. It's been a great challenge, and many challenges to come. I said, I've got a group of coaches that I talk to on a regular basis from other codes, and a couple of them going through a difficult period, and we all decided that, as a coach, you're either going through a difficult period or it's coming up. So that's your constant way of being, but I enjoy it, mate. Thank you.
Hi, Ange. Good afternoon.
Hey.
For some Spurs players, it will be the first time experiencing the North London derby, especially away. What do you think would be the key for them to maintain their focus and perform in what's going to be a very challenging atmosphere?
Yeah, I think you're right. We're going to have quite a few that probably haven't played in this fixture, and like I said, away from home. And it's not just that it's a derby and it's away from home. It's the challenge of overcoming a really strong opponent as well. Irrespective of that, Arsenal are a very, very good football side, and but again, I think with these things, as much as you want to talk about them, it's the experience that makes you grow. And I've always felt that in these kind of fixtures that, you allow the players to go out there and hopefully try and get them to, express themselves in the best possible way and not put too many sort of, restrictions around or try and guide them too much as to what to expect and how to react to it. It's much better they go through the experience and then you can sort of reflect on it. It doesn't mean that you can't offer advice. And like I said, from our perspective, we've tried to create an environment here where every day we train really hard every day, preparing for a really difficult game at the end of the week. And, hopefully that kind of constant day-to-day conditioning of the boys in terms of their physical being, their mental being, means that every week they feel like it's a big game, so that when they do get into a game of more significance from a public perspective like this one, hopefully it doesn't change them too much.
After Arsenal managed to complete a double against Spurs last year, how important do you think this one specifically is for the Spurs fan to get a positive result at the Emirates?
Yeah, look, again, with I guess the supporters, it's any time, I think irrespective of your past record, they always see the next derby as the one that they want to win, and that doesn't change. And from our perspective, like I said, it's a great challenge for us as a football sort of team that's beginning on a journey and trying to have an identity in terms of the way we play. And there's no greater test than playing one of the top teams in the competition away from home, who also happens to be your biggest sort of rival. So it's a great test for us, great challenge for us, and that's what we've got to go out there and try and see how we cope with all of that.
In terms of recovery and preparation, the fact you're not playing in Europe, Arsenal played Wednesday night, gives you some kind of advantage this weekend?
Yeah. I don't know how them playing in Champions League and us obviously not playing Champions League because we weren't good enough last year gives us an advantage. I think the advantage is usually with a team that's in the Champions League because they've earned the right to be there. So, no, I don't think it gives us any advantage whatsoever. And in many respects, that's the space we want to be in. We would have much preferred to have a Champions League game this week as preparation for a derby rather than not a game. So, but again, all these kind of things, you go into games and you adjust your preparation. I'm sure Mikel has with his team, and will adjust for the fact that we didn't have a game, a top level game midweek to prepare for this one.
Ian, take.
Hi, Ange, how are you?
I'm good, mate.
Spurs haven't won at Arsenal for 13 years, but not many of your players that will play on Sunday will have that kind of baggage, in inverted commas, with them. How much of a help is that they're going into this game without having had years and years of not having success in this fixture?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it really depends on sort of how you frame that. Ultimately, the challenge is that they're a very good football team, and I can't get away from that. They're a very, very good football team. So, irrespective of past records, even if we had beaten them twice last year, I'd be going into this game going, it's going to be a tough game, and it will be a tough game for our players, and particularly away from home. So that's the challenge for us. And I've never put too much stock on previous sort of records or previous history, because ultimately, I certainly wasn't involved in any of those. As you said, some of the players weren't involved in any of those. So there's no point us reflecting on sort of a historical context to the fixture. What's really more relevant is, well, they're in good form, we're in good form, we want to go out there and try and sort of play our football against them.
You've been heralded this year for playing on the front foot. Spurs fans saying they got their club back, and the football's so much more entertaining than in the past few years. Can you play that sort of football in this game, in a derby match of this magnitude?
Well, there's no other reason that we play this football than to be successful. So if I didn't think we were going to be successful, I wouldn't play it against any opposition. So, from my perspective, I've often said that I don't set up my teams to play football that's just nice to watch. I set up my teams to play football that'll win, and you have to believe in that against all opposition, in all kind of circumstances. So there's always tweaks that happen because of the opposition will force you to adjust certain parts of your game. But the underlying principles of the kind of team we want to be, no, I'm not going to I'm not going to shy away from it now just because we're facing a good team. We have to, go out there and challenge ourselves to play the football we have so far against one of the teams that will be challenging for the title.
And finally, one of the talking points around the opposition on Sunday is the goalkeeper. They started off with one goalkeeper, they brought in another goalkeeper. How difficult, as a coach, can you explain how difficult that is to have two goalkeepers who both see themselves as number ones? You very firmly had Joe Hart as number one at Celtic. The goalkeeper you bought this summer is very firmly your number one at the moment. How difficult is it, or do you see it as not being a problem at all?
I think the most difficult is when you don't have a number one. That's when you're really struggling. I reckon having two good number ones, I don't think any managers would say no to that. So, no, I think they're in a good position.
Charlie.
Ange, I wondered how important the psychology is for the players for this kind of fixture, and with that in mind, if there are things you've been trying to tap into this week and in the next couple of days.
Again, as I said, I think you don't downplay the significance of the game because even if I tried to, there's enough noise around it for the players. They don't live in bubbles to know that it's a big game and what the significance of it. But as I keep saying, we train every day. There's there's going to be a preparation for us to play our best game of the year this weekend. And once we do that, then there'll be a preparation to play our best game of the year the following weekend. That has to be the mentality, and I've tried to instill that into every group I've had, is that you train every day to be the best you can be. That means you're preparing yourself for your best game of the season this coming weekend. But it's not like you treat it, when people say you treat it like every other game, well, yes, you do, because every other game we want to win, and we have to be at our best, particularly in the Premier League, to do that. So the noise around it and significance around it is something that we have to embrace and absorb. But I'm not gonna be happy if we're more up for this game and less up for another game, because I know that's not going to get us to where we want to go.
Mm. You mentioned before about you speaking to coaches from other codes and that sort of thing. Could you just expand on that and the sort of things that you talk to with them?
Yeah, just like I said, I think I've said before, I'm the kind of guy who's pretty curious, and we've got a little group that we kind of get together once a month, and nothing significant, just sort of a safe space for us to whine and moan about our existence, and everyone feels good at the end of it, mate. It's a bit of therapy, but it's all good.
And just lastly, on team news, Lo Celso, is he available? Is there any other different?
No, in terms of apart from Ivan, everyone else from sort of last week's in good space. But in terms of the longer term ones, we've still got there's still probably 2 or 3 weeks away. Brian Gill, Lo Celso, Bentancur, those kind of guys. Hopefully, over the next few weeks, they'll sort of slowly get involved with training.
Hi, Ange. There's so much change going on at the club right now. It's not obviously just you and on the pitch. You've got Scott Munn officially signed this week, Director of Football coming in, Leonardo Gabbanini leaving the club. What's that like to be inside a club that's changing so much all at once?
Normal for me. Wherever I've gone, it's kind of and I think that's the club understanding. As I've constantly said that if you want to change, you need to change, and all these things happen. Sometimes not sequential or not at the same time, but over the course of time, you find that we're heading off in a new direction, and some of the people make their own decisions about whether they're involved with that. Other times we look for new people, or the club looks for new people to bring in, and I think that's the kind of position we are as a club. And as I've said, it wasn't going to take one window for us to sort of build the squad we want, and it wasn't going to take just a couple of months for us to have the structure we want. It's something that I think will evolve over the next probably 12 months, couple of years. I think you'll find there'll be some constant evolution of people and the way we play and the way we train and the environment itself. I think that's and all these kind of things I think are just a natural consequence of the club deciding to change direction at the end of last year.
Talking about the future, I went to watch the under-21s this week and saw Alejo Veliz getting his first minutes for the club. Obviously, very much looks like a player that's going to fit your system. What have you made of him in training so far? And do you still feel your original thought that you're probably not going to see him getting minutes until the second half of the season?
Yeah, no, to be fair to him, he's only had sort of 1 week training with us. He had 2 sessions sort of last week, and then we sort of gave him some game time in the 21s, as you said, and now he's sort of had a full week of training, and great to have him on board. Again, no expectations around his contribution. Obviously, being an attacking third, I think he'll get some opportunities for some game time, but we still got to let him settle a little bit and get involved in training sort of more consistently over the next 3 weeks. Maybe get him a game or 2 more in the 21s, because he's missed a lot of football. But we've been really encouraged with the way he's gone about things, the way he's adjusted to life here. He's only a young man, sort of coming from the other side of the world. The dressing room environment's great, and watching him the other night, he's showing the attributes. He's got great movement. He's a real sort of number 9 in terms of the way he attacks the box, and really looking forward to getting him up to speed.
Last one from me. There's another big game for you this weekend. Carlton playing tomorrow morning. Are you going to get up and watch that? And how much are you looking forward to that?
Absolutely, mate. Go the Blues. They've had a great year, and we've had a lot of time without success. Good luck to the Blues, Mickey, Michael Voss, and Cripsy and the boys.
Final one in this section, James, please.
Hi, Ange.
No one knows what I was talking about there. That's fine. Yeah, thanks, mate. Go on.
You've made such a good start in moving on from Harry Kane leaving, but he is the all-time top goal scorer in North London derbies, 14 goals in 19 games. Is this maybe a game where there's a risk of feeling that void a bit more than in the past?
No, I think there's a risk of filling that void right from the start. I mean, that's the reality of it. As you said, it's not. It's a fairly significant figure on and off the field. To be fair, that left very late in the piece, but we kind of tried to, as a collective, focus on kind of the road ahead and the kind of team we want to be. And I've really been pleased with the way that all the lads have sort of tackled the task of us being a real attacking threat from all areas of our game, and so that people sort of don't see sort of a glaring gap there. But it's still you're still trying to replace arguably the greatest player this club's ever had, who still was making a very, very significant contribution. So, but I think the opportunity for the void to be there is there all the time, but we've managed that well so far.
And obviously you've already beaten Manchester United. Do you feel you've got the personalities to step up in these big games, or are you sort of still learning that, I guess?
Well, we'll learn that. Yeah, I mean, it's not a. I mean, we're 5 games in. I mean, I understand that for many people this will, they'll see this as our first real test, and I get that, and it's pretty easy to kind of, you can almost write 2 stories now. If we're successful, great, we're on the right track. If we're not, when we've still got a long way to go. But for me, what's going to be more important is how much of our football I see in a big game like this. How much of us can I see against a top opponent, and that'll give me the biggest indicator as to where we're at. But ultimately, we'll still be 6 games into a new cycle, a new group of players, a very young group of players, and either way, irrespective of the outcome, like I said, the performance will be my biggest measure, but knowing that we've still got a long way to go.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast.